Well, you talk about being unprepared. What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Obviously, flying solo this afternoon. Just had a little bit of time. We're going to be going out to dinner this evening, so thought, hey, let's do an afternoon show so we get some kind of content out for everybody listening on the podcast and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk a little Packers as we're deep into the bye week here. Not quite deep enough, but we are chugging along. Obviously, we're going to be not playing a game this Sunday and then getting geared up next week for the Bears, which that's always a fun one, as you guys and gals obviously know. Let's do this, though. First things first, let's give a quick shout-out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin-based since 92, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description that'll send you to theticketking.com where you can register for free as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. So we got a couple different things to hit on today, and I see everybody filing in. Kind of a surprise. I know. I apologize, guys. Daryl in here in the chat said, "Did you change your schedule?" I noticed it. No permanent change. Just tonight, we had some dinner plans. Had some friends wanted to get together and go out and grab a bite to eat. So we decided to go live a little bit earlier. And I checked with the guys. They're of course busy. They're doing more important things to talk about right now. And Tim may hop in here in a minute. I doubt it. But we will be back on normal schedule tomorrow. So I apologize for the inconvenience. But obviously, if you're watching this and you didn't watch live, you still found the show, the podcast, and that's all that matters. So let's see. Nate Dizzle in the house. Go Pack Go. What's up, Cheeseheads? What's up, buddy? Let's see here. RE Iron Miner still stinging from the Smith trade. We're going to talk about the Preston Smith trade, Iron Miner. We're going to hit on that for sure, buddy. Let's see here. Rail in the chat. Preston Smith said he didn't feel comfortable enough playing in a 4-3. He's been in the 3-4 damn near 10 seasons. He wanted to trade. That's what we're going to hit on a little bit deeper there, Rail. Appreciate you swinging through, buddy. Yeah, all right, let's see here. Cam Ward in the house. Good to see you, Cam. All right, let's just go ahead and get into it. So, we talked about the Preston Smith trade before we did Chalk Talk last night, and it kind of caught a lot of people off guard. And, one of the things that we pressed into on the show yesterday was the salary cap issue, right? Like, we could afford to keep Preston Smith, okay? Don't take what I'm about to say the wrong way. We could afford to keep him over the next 2 years, but it's obvious that Goody and Matt LaFleur, probably more so than Goody, wants Matt LaFleur to get and keep LV in on the field. You want your young guys to play like Enigbare, right? We've seen Carl Brooks play wide 9 in this new 4-3 front, so he's versatile enough to do that. If he get a little bit healthier there in the defensive tackle room, obviously Devontae Wyatt seems to be fully healthy now. I think that's going to come into play a little bit as well as we move forward. But the big thing is the salary cap information, right? And to the best of my knowledge, you're looking at this year you freed up roughly $2 million. Next year, you're going to be freeing up $7 million in cap space, and then the following year, it should free up roughly $18 million. That's compared to if Preston Smith was on your roster. If that makes sense. So now, if you ask me, would you rather have Preston Smith on the roster and be lose $2 million? Absolutely. That's a no-brainer for me, right? Next year, you could free up $7 million and not have him on the roster. It depends on how the season finishes, but I would lean towards cutting bait next year because it was going to be a little bit too much money overall against the cap. Understand that $7 million is just what you're saving, the difference between what his salary cap would have been and what the cap penalty is, right? So you kind of take that difference, and that's what you're technically freeing up because he's still on the books for some cap hit next year. So, but the big thing is the new information that came out today was obviously Ari Mirov on Twitter at MySportsUpdate said new Steelers outside linebacker Preston Smith revealed today that he requested a trade out of Green Bay, and they honored it. Smith explained that the move was due to a scheme change in Green Bay that didn't suit his playing style. So a couple different things here. First of all, notice he didn't cause a ruckus, right? Preston Smith is one of the more stand-up guys. I mean, I feel really comfortable saying that. The dude has never been a problem. He's always been a locker room guy. He's a guy that stood up for Joe Barry last year, one of about a half a dozen that kind of came to Joe Barry's defense when everybody was trying to pin the missed tackles, the dropped interceptions, the blown coverages, all on Joe. I think he's a stand-up dude, a good locker room guy. And I love that he went to the team and was just like, hey, man, can I get into a 3-4 defense where I fit? Now, we didn't find this information out until earlier today. Obviously, Ari Meirov and a couple of different people had tweeted it out. So in the moment with everything happening, and then you had Brian Gutekunst's press conference, notice Goody didn't mention that, right? He didn't mention it at all. And I respect that about Goody. Now, you did notice what Goody did say was something along the lines of, yeah, it ended up being a good situation for him. And I'm kind of paraphrasing. We were able to send him to a playoff contending team, right? That says a lot about Brian Gutekunst. Rather than I seen some people commenting on Twitter, man, they should have traded him to a no-name team and they shouldn't give him a chance to, blah, blah, blah. You're creating a reputation as a general manager. It's either good or bad. There's no in between. And the one thing that Goody has done to kind of repair his reputation with the backlash that he and Aaron Rodgers kind of had back and forth is he seems to try to do things the right way. Like when he traded Rasul Douglas on the outside looking in, I didn't like the way they handled it. Obviously, Rasul said he was at the facility when he found out. Or no, was he at the – I'm trying to think, was he at the facility or was he at home? Yeah, he was at the facility, but I think he was downstairs. He was like in the sauna or something, if I remember correctly. So that one was a little weird, like, oh, man, that's a bad look, Goody. So I think a move like this also kind of repairs a little bit of that with Brian Gutekunst, that he listened to this guy and probably went to Matt and was like, hey, he's requesting a trade. What do you want to do? And Matt probably said the same thing, like, hey, his snaps went down that last game. He's not really a technical fit. He's done a lot for our organization. And when you give someone an opportunity to leave in a professional manner and obviously left on good terms, went to a playoff contending team, I think that other players around the league, they take note of that stuff. And I think people in your locker room take note of that stuff as well. So you guys know how I felt. If Preston had not requested a trade, then I'd be like, man, what the hell are we doing trading him for a 7th-round pick? Like that 7th-round pick, guys, you understand that's such a low hit rate, right? But then you step back and go, okay, look at the money you're freeing up. It's obvious with the snap count from the last game, they're wanting to get LV in on the field more. They're wanting to get Enagbare on the field more. Mosby flashed a little bit. I think he only played like 5 snaps, but he got that half a sack. You got Brenton Cox Jr., another guy. So when you take everything into consideration, it does make a lot of sense that you can free up cap space for the future, because that $7 million, that's Keyshawn Nixon. And whether you think that's money well spent or not for the best return guy in the league and what I think is an above average corner, still you can go spend $6 million on a free agent next year. That's essentially what it means. 2025, the new calendar year turns over. When we get into February and March, I think it's March when free agency starts, you're going to have an extra $7 million to play with, right? And that's a solid starter. Not a great starter, not a very good starter, but a starting caliber player, depending on the position. So I think when you look at it from that way, from that perspective, it worked out for both sides. And the 7th-round pick is more of just kind of a little extra sweetener there, right? Like, okay, you did get something. And to the best of my knowledge, it is just a flat 7. There's no conditional aspects to that draft pick at all, like if he plays so many snaps or what have you. And from Pittsburgh's perspective, he's going to be a rotational edge defender, right? So they're looking at it like, okay, we don't want to give up too much for a guy who's probably not even going to be starting unless we've got an injury at the moment. So, we always talk about the best trades in the NFL are good for both sides, for both teams. Everybody likes to talk about he fleeced him, he fleeced that. When we won that trade, there's not a GM in the league that goes into a trade thinking, man, they beat us there, but we had to do it. It just doesn't work like that, right? You're trying to find that common ground. I don't know if that makes sense, but I did want to point that out, that's what happened. Preston did actually request a trade. And again, yesterday when we were talking about it, it's like, oh, man, I don't know why Goody did this other than to get the money off the books next year. And but now it all makes sense, right? So there you go with that. Now, some other news, a little bit better news. This is really exciting. I don't know if y'all seen this come down the wire or not, but the 33rd team had tweeted out, building a defense with the league's best rookies through through 8 weeks of the season. All right. So this is the 2024 midseason NFL all-rookie defense via James Foster. Okay, now I heard somebody else say this was from The Athletic as well. So I don't know if there's connection there. I do know when it was mentioned about The Athletic putting out an all-rookie team, these same two Packers made the all-rookie team on defense. And those two players are Evan Williams, safety, and Edgerrin Cooper, linebacker. Guys, I can't think of another time where a rookie player got all rookie on defense. I don't think Quay did his rookie year, right? We were excited about him because it's like, hey, man, it's so rare that a rookie player comes in and plays those significant snaps, right? And Quay just kind of took the mock or the wheel the first year, but was still on the field. Even in some dime sets, he was on the field when they would take Devondre Campbell off. So they seen a lot of upside in him. But I don't remember a rookie defender winning all rookie, being on an all rookie defensive ranking like this. So this is really exciting, and it is kind of bittersweet though, because we keep talking about Edgerrin Cooper. Why is he not on the field every snap? I've seen enough. I don't know how you guys feel. Let everybody know in the comments how you feel about it. But for me with Edgerrin Cooper, it's like there's going to be ups and downs. But I'm telling you, when you compare his ups and downs to Quay Walker's ups and downs, there's no reason to take Edgerrin Cooper off the field to put Quay on. I think when you're in your nickel 4-2-5, those are the two linebackers that should be on the field. I think Eric Wilson has made a case this year to maybe replace Quay, but I don't think it's realistic for the coaches to agree with that. And I understand that you're still kind of holding out hope that first-round pick finally clicks, it comes together. But for me personally, I want Edgerrin Cooper on the field every snap you can get. Same thing with Evan Williams. You guys seen before the injury, he kind of unseated Javon Bullard as that safety starting opposite Xavier McKinney, and I think rightfully so. I really do. So this is really exciting. You got two players, and here's the thing. There are two tier 2 positions on defense, in my opinion. You guys know tier 1 of importance on defense for me is a 3-tech defensive tackle and an edge defender. And the idea is to line the edge up on the opposite side of the 3-tech. So you've got two good pass rushers. You've got a guy that's helping anchor the middle of that defensive line, albeit not a 1-tech, but a 3-tech. You're still kind of in the middle. If you get two studs in those two spots, it's going to cause absolute hell for offensive linemen and offensive coordinators and quarterbacks trying to set the protection. You can't double them both unless you take a lot of assets out of the route combinations, right? So those are the two tier 1 of importance. After that, tier 2, in my opinion, Mike linebacker and post safety. Now, some people are going, Clayton, is Evan Williams a post safety? He needs to be from time to time because, again, safeties in today's NFL are very, very interchangeable, right? And the fact that they're interchangeable, you want Xavier McKinney to be able to use his superpower. His superpower is he can line up anywhere on the field and get to any ending assignment spot on the field. What I mean by that is he can mug the C gap. He can show like he's running a safety blitz off the outside shoulder of the tight end and then still get all the way down the seam to play post safety. He's done it time and time again this year. He's done it to play cover 2 as well, right, to play one of the deep halves. So that's his superpower. If you don't have a guy who can play post safety behind him when you're wanting to show those looks and you do need to go to a cover 2 and you're playing split safety looks, then you really limit how much of that you can do with Xavier McKinney. You notice early in the year when Javon Bullard was getting the bulk of the snaps, Xavier couldn't do that as much. It's like Javon couldn't catch on quick enough to allow them to give Xavier McKinney more freedom to kind of be aggressive lining up underneath, right? And then as soon as Evan Williams won that starting job and kind of broke away from the pack a bit, now all of a sudden you're seeing all this exotic looks from Xavier McKinney. So I say all that because these are the two positions you want this all-rookie defense or these players to be on an all-rookie defense. It's exciting. And I understand some people would look at this and roll their eyes and think, is this really that important? Listen, probably not. But anytime you get an outlier like this where it's like, okay, we haven't had this in the recent past, it's got to make you feel good about where you're at with some of these draft picks. That's just the way I'm looking at it. And I think Javon Bullard still has a lot of upside. He could end up being better than Evan Williams. The reality is Evan Williams has outplayed him to this point, though, right? So, again, just something to keep an eye on there for the second half of the season is Evan Williams. Obviously, we need to get him healthy, get him back on the field. I think he'll be ready after the bye. They didn't put him on the IR to the best of my knowledge. You guys correct me in the chat if they did put him on the IR. I don't think they did. But you get him back after the bye, hopefully, and you get this defense to settle in. Now, here's the thing. We all agree the defense is better with Evan Williams out there as opposed to Javon Bullard. But this last game against the Lions, the number one scoring offense in the league, and I know it was a rain game. I got you. That's going to have an impact on the game. You held them to 17 points. That's really, really impressive, right? So Javon Bullard held his own. But, man, imagine if Evan had been out there, who knows? It might have been a one-score game, right? So just something to, like I said, kind of hang your hat on here a little bit. Let's see. I'm seeing people ask about Josh Jacobs. What is this? J. Cole says, do you believe Josh Jacobs is unhappy? I don't really understand the origin of that question, Jay. Do you have a reason to think he's unhappy? I'm trying to comb through the chat here. Chris N asked, why is Jacobs unhappy? Yeah, if you would answer that. I haven't heard anything about Josh Jacobs being unhappy. Hopefully he isn't, right? I think he's having a hell of a year. I think he's a team leader. So, I'm not concerned about that unless you've got some information that maybe I haven't heard yet, right? So, all right, moving along. Some other information that came out yesterday. Matt Schneidman had tweeted out, Luke Musgrave had ankle surgery, LaFleur says. He has missed the last 5 games while on IR, hoping to get him back later in the season. So they're still holding out hope that Luke Musgrave will come back later this year. I'm not concerned about it at all. And I'm going to tell you why. If you guys watch Chalk Talk, if you watch this show consistently, you know that I am a Ben Sims fan. There's no two ways about it. That dude has done everything that they've asked him to do. He's blocked good. He's made the most out of his opportunities when running routes. He's technically the highest graded, according to PFF, the highest graded tight end on our roster, even higher than Tucker Kraft. Now, does that mean that Ben Sims is better than Tucker Kraft? Absolutely not. But it is something to focus on because when you see the grades and then we go watch the tape and we see Ben Sims pancaking people 2 weeks in a row, and then we see Ben Sims with a smooth transition off a Y leak flat, catching the ball, turning upfield, and gaining the first down while getting demolished out of bounds. And you've seen him on the wheel route showing great hands with the ball that was thrown behind him. It's every single week when Ben Sims is on the field, he does something that you go, damn, that was good. Damn, that was good, right? And then the PFF grade is just kind of the icing on the cake for me. I don't know if that makes sense or not. So let me write a couple of these notes down real quick. I apologize. Flying solo, just trying to make sure we put the right information out here on the podcast notes. So as far as Luke Musgrave, I'm not concerned when he comes back. I think Tucker Kraft is emerging as a top 10 tight end in the league, and I think Ben Sims is a top 10 backup, if that makes sense. Meaning, if everybody's tight end is healthy across the league, and you say, all right, we're running a 12 personnel, he may be in the top 5 of backup tight ends for me, Ben Sims. And that's really exciting because I'm pretty sure we will have a little bit. If I remember correctly, we're going to have some rights to him. Matter of fact, I'm going to type it in right now and see if I can figure out exactly how his contract lines up here. I may try to get it on the screen for y'all. I apologize if there's a little dead air here, but I want to see if it gives us any indication of what we have as far as the rights to Ben Sims, because what you got is like futures contracts, you've got restricted free agency, things like that. So if we slide down here, let me get it up on the screen for y'all real quick. Financial summary for the Green Bay Packers according to SpotTrack. So might be a little bit hard to read. Hopefully we can get it zoomed in here. Let's see if we can find our boy down here. Should be toward the bottom of the list, I imagine. Ben Sims. So let's click on it and see what it says here as far as his contract details. All right, so Ben Sims signed a 3-year, $2.7 million contract with the Minnesota Vikings, including $10,000 signing bonus, blah, 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 blah. So the way it sits right now, I guess where we claimed him, we picked up that contract is what it looks like. So Ben Sims is technically under contract this year and next year. Okay. His cap hit this year, $915,000. 2025, 1 million flat. Or, pretty much 1 million flat. $1,030,000, right? And then in 2026, he's a restricted free agent. So we pretty much can get him back very, very easily in 2026 if we want him as well. And I say that because, again, the conversation is about this Luke Musgrave injury, right? And with the Luke Musgrave injury, there's no reason to rush him back. And right now, I got to be real with you guys. I think Ben Sims is more valuable than Luke Musgrave when it comes to the tight end room. That's just me personally. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's kind of how I see it. He's a guy who's picked up his assignments really, really well. He's executed on the field. He's done everything you've asked him to do. Luke Musgrave, as you guys know, he screwed up some assignments. He's not a good run blocker. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Luke Musgrave, going into that draft, if you look at my board, I had Luke Musgrave significantly higher than Tucker Kraft. Okay, so I was the guy that was Team Musgrave. And listen, you get to the league, some people catch on quicker than others. Tucker Kraft grabbed the opportunity and ran with it. He's hands down significantly better than Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft is. And what we've seen on tape, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, Ben Sims, I think, is a better tight end right now than Luke Musgrave is right now. That doesn't mean Luke Musgrave can't pass him up, but that just makes you feel really good knowing that you got your number 3 tight end just sitting there for the next 2 years if you need him. And when Luke Musgrave's healthy, you're good to go, right? So that's kind of how I see it for sure. Now, you got to keep in mind, too, Musgrave is a different kind of tight end, right? Tucker Kraft has emerged as this all-around tight end. You can flex him if you want. He can play inline and block, as Emilio would say. And the same thing with Ben Sims. We seen this last game. They flexed him out wide, then brung him into kind of that, that spot that's almost, it's real close to that wing position. And then bang, pancake block right off the line, right? So you're seeing them start to flex him out a little bit to create an illusion. And the reality is he's the fastest tight end on the team, too. He had the fastest 40 time. Now, I understand if you're thinking that doesn't necessarily convert to football speed, completely agree. But from a 40-yard dash standpoint and athletically, Ben Sims is just as, if not more athletic than Luke Musgrave and Tucker Kraft. It's real close. Tucker Kraft obviously scored in the 9s. I think Musgrave scored in the 9s as well, but I think Ben Sims was in the 9s too. But I know he's got the fastest 40-yard dash. So, again, I'm not saying we're giving up on Luke Musgrave. I'm saying it's absolutely awesome that Goody had the foresight to see, hey, look, we need to go get another tight end. You pick this guy up, you get his rights for 2 years now, and you're pretty much set there at the tight end position from a backup standpoint, right? I think it's important. So now what I was going to say about Musgrave is you can flex him out, right? That's his superpower, is playing wide receiver. At least coming out of college, he felt like that. But again, it doesn't mean just because you do it in college well, doesn't mean you're going to transition to the pros well. And maybe you guys disagree with me, but when we've seen him out running routes, he doesn't have great contact balance. He doesn't have great body control. Hopefully he can fix that. He has been playing hurt. You guys remember he had internal bleeding and finished the game. So, some of that's coming into play too. It definitely hasn't gotten started the way he would expect it to. But again, that's kind of his thing, is he's a bigger wide receiver, a tight end that can play wide receiver, as where Ben Sims, I think, is just a traditional tight end. So, all right. Anything else in here? Prince in the chat. We need Musgrave for the second half of the season, but sounds like he won't be ready for a while. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting to, Prince. Probably going to be several more weeks, right? If we get him, probably going to be like the last 2 or 3 games of the season, maybe at best. It's kind of the way it feels. So, yeah, we'll see, though. We'll see for sure. All right. Let's see what else we got on the agenda here. So, Marshawn Lloyd, rookie, right? Matt Schneidman tweeted out, Brian Gutekunst says Marshawn Lloyd is coming off our pretty soon here, hopefully, was the exact quote. So some people thought you trade Preston Smith away so you can activate Marshawn Lloyd, right? That he'll take his roster spot. I have no reason to believe that's what's going to happen at this point, other than people just mentioning, hey, this might line up perfect. Goody said he should be coming off IR real soon. So hopefully that's the case. Matt LaFleur was really, really high on Marshawn Lloyd. He was talking, I think he referred to him as that little rocket back there. just talking about his acceleration, his burst, his agility, his change of direction, all those things. We've seen it. Listen, when he's on the field, and it was a very, very small sample size, you can see how he can be a dynamic running back for sure. And to me, it's like he's right in between an Aaron Jones and a Josh Jacobs. Like Aaron Jones is a slasher, right? He's just a physical freak from a standpoint of he could change directions on a dime. He's got a crazy acceleration. I'm not saying Marshawn Lloyd has showed anything to suggest he's going to be just as good as Aaron Jones or better. But you look at Josh Jacobs, he's a little bit slower back, but man, the patience, the ball carrier vision, the ability to allow the hole to develop, and then when it's there, cut and go, and he's got some of the best acceleration in the game. I kind of see Marshawn Lloyd, small sample size, but he's from a trying to think of the right word here, from just a build standpoint, like how he's built as a running back, it seems like he's kind of right in between Aaron Jones and Josh Jacobs. At least that's my understanding. Now, Emmanuel Wilson, I think, is a solid back too. So you get Marshawn Lloyd back, you got Emmanuel Wilson, and then you got Chris Brooks in your back pocket in case you need that. Really like where the running back room is. And you guys know we are grading out as one of the highest teams in the National Football League as far as running grades. And it's all because of those running backs we've got for sure. So, again, look for Marshawn Lloyd to come off the IR real soon, probably much, much quicker than Luke Musgrave, I would imagine. So, up next, the Fox NFL Podcast Power Rankings. Okay, so they put out their Week 10 Power Rankings. Listen, I'm going to show you two different sets of power rankings, one from NFL on Fox Podcast and the other from the 33rd team. You can take it with a grain of salt. I like to kind of keep my finger on the pulse of, all right, where does the national media kind of see this team right now ranked? These power rankings from Fox NFL Podcast: number 1, Kansas City Chiefs; number 2, Detroit Lions; number 3, Buffalo Bills; number 4, Baltimore Ravens; number 5, Washington Commanders; number 6, the Minnesota Vikings; number 7, the Philadelphia Eagles; and number 8, dropping 4 spots, okay, from number 4 down to 8, is the Green Bay Packers. So the Green Bay Packers lost to the second best team according to this ranking here, and that dropped them down 4 spots. So a legit top 10 team. I like it. I do. Do I think they're a top 5 team? Do I think they're better than Kansas City? No. Detroit, they can beat Detroit. I think they can beat any team in the league on any given Sunday. Like if things go right and a couple things go wrong for any of these teams, I think the Packers could beat them. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. But do I think they're better than Chiefs? No. Lions? No. Bills? Probably not. They're on a heater right now. Baltimore Ravens? No. Washington Commanders? I think we maybe are. But the Commanders are playing so damn good right now, it's hard for me to just say yes. The Vikings, I think we're a better team than the Vikings. And I know we lost to them. And immediately I go, without that pick 6, well, the pick 6 was a real thing. And it's becoming more common in Jordan Love's game. That's the first team on this list that I would think. I think the Packers might be better than the Vikings. The Eagles, another one of those teams that any given Sunday, the Packers could beat them. But listen, we played them head-to-head, and they beat us. It's hard for me to say we're better than them, right? So of those teams there, I would say I could see us being worthy of the number 7 spot, but I think 8's pretty fair. I really do. Now, when we move on to the 33rd team, and let me say this. We got the Bears coming up out of the bye. They've got the Bears ranked 15th, okay? So significantly lower than us, kind of middle of the pack there as far as the rest of the league. That's going to be the matchup we're going to be looking at there as far as coming out of the bye week playing at Chicago, which should be a fun game. Now, 33rd team power rankings, they have Green Bay, number 8 as well. This is by Marcus Mosher, all right, from the 33rd team. Number 1, Kansas City, same as Fox. Number 2, Detroit Lions, same as Fox. Number 3, Buffalo Bills, same as Fox. Let's see. Number 4, they have the Baltimore Ravens, and so does the 33rd team. Number 5, the 33rd team has the Vikings, number 5, and Fox has Washington, number 5. Okay. And then the 33rd team has Washington, number 6, as where Fox had the Vikings, number 6. So those two just kind of switch out there. And then number 7, they got the Eagles. Number 8, they've got the Packers. So really close there. The only difference between those two, Fox NFL on Fox Podcast and the 33rd team's power rankings, is Washington and Minnesota flip on those two lists. So again, Packers, a legit top 10 team is the way they're seeing it there. They got the 49ers ranked 12th here. And the 49ers are getting healthy, gang. Well, by the time we face them here a little later in the year, that's going to be an interesting matchup, I think. Matter of fact, when do we have them? Let's take a look at the schedule here. So we get the 49ers immediately following the Bears. I like that. At least it's sooner rather than later, because if they're not completely healthy, we could kind of catch a little bit of a break there. But you're at the Bears coming out of the bye. That's a 1 o'clock kickoff on Fox. Then the very next week, you've got the San Francisco 49ers. This is on November 24th. Got them coming in to Lambeau for a 3:25 Central kickoff on Fox. That's going to be a lot of fun. Those shadows casting across Lambeau. We're getting in that territory too now, where we might start seeing some snow soon at Lambeau, which is always exciting. Then you got Thanksgiving night, the Miami Dolphins Thursday night on Thanksgiving on NBC. 8:20 kickoff Eastern. That'd be 7:20 Lambeau time at Lambeau Field. Is just going to be absolutely awesome. That's going to be a fun game. Tua, you can see that team is totally different with Tua on it. There's no doubt about that. So we'll see how that one shakes out. Then you got at the Detroit Lions on Amazon Prime. That's going to be a fun one to watch on Thursday Night Football. So you've got some prime time coming up here, don't you? You got a Thursday night Thanksgiving Day game, prime time that evening against the Dolphins. Then you got a prime time game at Detroit, which will be another Thursday night. And then the following Sunday, you're at Seattle for Sunday Night Football. And then the following week, wow, look at this, December 23rd, you got the Saints at home on Monday Night Football. And then you're back to a 1 o'clock kickoff. So we have got 4 primetime games right in a row, starting on Thanksgiving night and carrying through Monday, December the 23rd. So that's really, really exciting there. I'm not a huge fan of the primetime games, because doing the post-game show and stuff, it can get a little bit, it's a long day. But that's just kind of a glance ahead at your schedule there. Sure. Now, Super Bowl odds. 33rd team tweeted this out. The Lions are the favorites to win the NFC Championship as we enter the back half of the season. And this says odds to make the Super Bowl. So this is the NFC teams, all right, via FanDuel. So these are the betting odds on which teams will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl, okay? Number 1 at plus 210 is the Detroit Lions. Number 2 at plus 500 is the Eagles. Tied for second is also the San Francisco 49ers at plus 500. Then you've got the Atlanta Falcons at plus 950, Washington at plus 950, Minnesota at plus 950, and then the Packers at plus 1,000. So that's how it's shaken up as far as your odds to make the Super Bowl, basically meaning your NFC representative, who is going to win the NFC championship, is essentially what that's saying. So kind of interesting. It really is, because the Packers are only 50 points away there from climbing up there and being tied for 4th best odds to represent the National Football Conference in the Super Bowl. So just kind of, again, these are the times we want to do this during the bye week, is dig into some of these statistics. We're also going to put together a Chalk Talk this next coming week based around the top plays of the year for the Packers so far, the first half of the season. So we'll hit some of that stuff. We'll get real creative with the content this week. And it's a good chance to kind of self-scout a little bit too, for sure. Since we're kind of talking Super Bowl odds, we were talking schedule. Let's look at the playoff picture real quick. The playoff picture in the AFC, number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs. The number 2 seed is the Buffalo Bills. The number 3 seed is the Pittsburgh Steelers. The number 4 seed is the Houston Texans, who we already defeated. Pretty cool, right? Number 5 is the Baltimore Ravens. 6 is the Chargers. 7 is the Denver Broncos. All right, that's your AFC playoff picture so far. Let's see. In the NFC, number 1, the Detroit Lions. Number 2, the Washington Commanders. Number 3, the Atlanta Falcons. 4 is the Arizona Cardinals. 5 is the Minnesota Vikings. 6 is the Philadelphia Eagles. And then in the number 7 spot, you've got the Green Bay Packers sitting there at 6-3. I think we have a 2-game lead right now, or 2-win lead for that final wild card spot. So again, the goal should be 12 wins. There's no reason why the Packers can't get to 12 wins. Right now, I've got them, all year long. When we started the season, I said I seen 10 to 13 wins was my guesstimate. And as the season went along and everything kind of comes into focus, Now I'm at a 12 to 13 range is what I'm seeing. Okay. Maybe 11 to 13 would be a little bit safer way of looking at it, but I can see them winning 12 games barring any catastrophic injuries, right? And that's what's crazy when you say catastrophic injuries, you immediately think of Jordan Love. The reality is, team's got a better record without him right now with Malik Willis at the helm. Yeah, listen, I know there's some Jordan Love truthers who get mad at me over saying that, but I'm not saying Malik Willis is a better quarterback. I'm simply saying the team has played pretty damn well with him at the helm, right? So it shouldn't be a divisive thing where it's like, I want Willis over Love or I want Love over Willis. It should be we feel good about both of them if we get in a situation where we need both of them, right? Where one, Jordan starts the game, he leaves with an injury. Willis can come in and win you a ball game, right? He's 3-0 this year. 2-0 as a starter, and then he came in and won that game when he had to come in. So I feel really confident that Malik Willis can win a game anytime you need him to. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be perfect, although he's got one of the best passer ratings in the league right now. It's basically made no mistakes at all. So I feel good about that situation. Now, as far as the NFL draft order, and I know it's extremely early, but it's something that they add on this graphic from NFL Nerding, Nerding on NFL. If you go follow them on X, it's an amazing follow. Draft order. The number 1 pick right now is the New England Patriots. Number 2 is the Jacksonville Jaguars. Number 3 is the New Orleans Saints. 4 is the Carolina Panthers. 5 is the Cleveland Browns. So obviously, same teams at the top every single year for that number 1 pick, right? All competing for it. That's how the draft order sits right now. Let's see. See what Reef said here. Reef said, Clayton, scratch us out of the playoff picture right now. We didn't any of our big games. I think he's saying we didn't win any of our big games. Okay. When you say scratch us out of the playoff picture, what you're basically saying is we're not going to win 11 games. That's what you're saying, Reef, right? When you say there's no way we can make the playoffs or we're not in the playoff picture, you're saying the Packers will not win 11 games. So if we go back to that schedule again, let's count them off here real quick. And I'm not picking on you, Reef. I'm just kind of thinking out loud here as you bring that up. Let's walk through it. Can you beat the Bears? I think we all say yes, right? So we're sitting at 6-3. That makes us 7-3. Let's say you lose to the Niners, okay? So that's 7-4. Let's say you beat the Dolphins at home. That's 8-4. You lose to the Lions. That's 8-5. You beat the Seahawks on the road, right? That's 9-5. Saints are one of the worst teams in the league. Can't overlook them, but you could beat them. That's 10-5. Let's say you lose to the Vikings again. That's 10-6. And then lo and behold, you got the Chicago Bears. That's 11-6. So question is, will 11 wins get you in the playoffs, right? Now, you guys heard me say that as I read them off. We can beat the Niners. That's possible, right? They're a little banged up. They're not playing their best ball. Even if they were completely healthy, you can't say that the Packers couldn't beat the Niners. We can beat the Dolphins. I think we can beat the Lions. I do. You remove that pick six, that's a whole different ball. You remove the pick six and the drop passes and the piss pouring rain, that's a totally different ball game, right? Seahawks, I think you can beat them, but it's hard to play up there. I think you can win that game. You can definitely beat the Saints. Nobody's going to convince me we can't beat the Vikings up there. We did it last year, right? And then the Bears, of course, goes without saying. You know, they could beat us, yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I think 12 wins is on the docket here, boys. I really do. So to just say no, there's no chance they make the playoffs, man. I don't see it. I like what Nate Dizzle's saying here. Run the damn table, yes, sir. Like that's the other thing too. This team could get hot. If this team gets hot, we could finish the year at number 2, number 3 in the power rankings. That's still in play here too, depending on how we finish this run. But each game has got to be treated like an individual game. You've got to approach this, each matchup. The Bears, you got to play the Bears totally different than you're going to play the Niners. You got to play the Niners totally different than you play the Dolphins and the Lions and the Seahawks and so on and so forth. There's going to be some of these games like the Saints. We might beat the Saints by 2 points, and there'll be people going, this team is horrible. No, that's not what that means. You listen, wins are hard to come by in the National Football League. I know this. If you go out and you beat, let's say you somehow, some way go out there and you beat the Lions by 14 points their next matchup. There's going to be the same people that will be saying this team ain't going to do anything because they barely squeaked by the Saints will be the ones saying, oh, we're the best team in the league because we beat the Lions by 14 points. I don't see football that way. I just don't look at it that way. Because on any given Sunday, anything can happen. Any team can beat any team in the league, and it's going to come down to personal matchups. What's their last 4-game saturation look like compared to what you're doing really, really well right now, offensively and defensively? And how well is the game called? Did you protect the football? Did you control the momentum of the game by winning the middle 8? All those things that are important. I see the game a little bit different in that regard. That makes sense. But let's see here what else we got. Omer going off, it sounds like. Omer in the chat. I'm going to have to get a flight to Green Bay to kick Matt's ass and make him run the damn ball. All right, Omer, you're the one to do the job, buddy. Omer also says, no reason this team can't win all 8 games. Only the Lions they can't beat right now of those 8 games. Listen, do I think they're going to win 7 of the last 8, Omer? I don't personally, but I'm definitely not going to say it's not possible, right? It's just, yeah, again, I don't understand the whole there's no chance. They're not a playoff team. I just don't get that. I don't get it at all. So, all right, let's see. Next thing, couple of things I wanted to share with you guys and gals here, and we'll get ready to wrap this thing up. Offensive and defensive expected points added in the 2024 NFL season. So this is EPA. If you'll notice this chart, and for everybody on the podcast, I'll try to explain it to you. You got a chart where on the left side, running vertically, you've got EPA per play allowed. So that's your defensive, expected points added as far as EPA allowed from your defense. That's going to give you a gauge of how well your defense is played. Running on the bottom horizontally, as I drop the ticker down, is your EPA per play for your offense. So essentially what you've got is vertically, the higher your team is on this chart is showing you've got a better EPA per play allowed from your defense, and running to the right horizontally, the further right, the better is your EPA per play for offense. So if you'll notice how the chart's divided up here, right around the 0 mark for both EPA per play allowed and EPA per play, the upper right column is showing you the highest performing teams right now. And let's count off how many of these teams are actually in that upper right part, okay? You got the Minnesota Vikings, that's 1, Pittsburgh Steelers 2, Jets 3, Packers 4, Chiefs 5, Eagles 6, 49ers 7th, Lions 8th, and then the Buffalo Bills 9th. So there's 9 teams that have qualified in that upper right. Now, keep in mind, guys, the Jets are barely in that quadrant, okay? So it is what it is. But again, 9 teams. Now, the one thing you want to know is people are going, where's Baltimore and Washington? They're having a really good year. Correct, they are. If you notice, their EPA per play on offense is through the roof. Washington's is the best in the league. Baltimore's is second, right? But they're well below that 0 mark for EPA per play allowed on the defensive side of the ball. So not as good of a defense in that regard. Those teams in the upper right are a little bit better balanced teams, if you will. So I love it, man. The Packers, I think, are the youngest team in the league now that they've gotten rid of Preston Smith. You know, they signed Brandon McManus, and that raised them up, and I think that knocked them out of being the youngest team. And I think when they got rid of Preston Smith, that brought them back down now. But they're in a position to be good for a long time. The only thing that worries me is getting close and not being willing to add that piece or two that's going to get you over the hump. And I know some people believe that's not a real thing. There's been too many teams win the Super Bowl by adding 1 or 2 pieces that's gotten them over the hump, right? I just don't want it to be something that every year we go, yeah, we added some good players. Well, we got rid of this one. That was a key contributor. And I'm not trying to say that's the case with Preston Smith. It's just it kind of feels a little bit like that. Like your team was better with Preston Smith on it. But the fact that he requested a trade, like I said, I respect it. Goody honored that for sure. So one last thing, and we'll get out of here. 33rd team tweeted this out. Just throw it up to these guys. EPA on all targets. These are the leaders through week 9 in the NFL. EPA, expected points added on all targets. Number 1, Darnell Mooney. I love that he used to play for the Chicago Bears. Now all of a sudden he's good at football. Funny how that works, right? He's leading the league at plus 42.0 All right. And that's EPA on all targets. Justin Jefferson, plus 38.3. Terry McLaurin, 37.2. Malik Neighbors, 35.1. Chris Godwin, 34.9. Khalil Shakir, 34.5. Zay Flowers, 31.7. Alan Lazard. I know some people like to think that Alan Lazard sucks at football, but that's EPA on all targets. He's there in the top 10, 30.9. Number 9, Amon-Ra St. Brown at 30.2. And then number 10 on this list is your very own Green Bay Packers, Jayden Reed at 29.1. So EPA on all targets, Jayden Reed is officially top 10 on that list. That's exciting. I think Jayden Reed is your most dynamic player on offense. When you look at the receiver room and you know there's going to be contract decisions that have to be made at the end of next season, not this season, but next season, you got to decide on Romeo Doubs and Christian Watson. If you decide to not pay them both, then what you're saying is you like Jayden Reed, Bo Melton, Malik Heath, and Dontavion Wicks as a receiving core. Now, you're going to go out and try to add stuff through the draft, and you're going to try to put pieces in place as much as you can, but that's kind of how you're viewing that. I think you need to sign one of those two players to a contract extension. The question is it Christian Watson or is it Romeo Doubs? I know there's some that believe Romeo Doubs is the guy. There's others that thinks Christian Watson's the guy. Me personally, if I had to choose between the two today, it's tough. I think Doubs has the best hands. I think Watson obviously has the most raw talent, the speed, the athleticism, the height, all that stuff. I think that Watson is hands down a better run blocker, and Matt LaFleur absolutely loves these wide receiver goons that are going there and dig out that safety when you need them to, even dig out a backer when you're in those nasty splits. That's not Doubs. He's willing to block. He's just not as good as Christian at it. I've been pretty vocal about this. If I were the Packers, I would go to both of those receivers and say, hey, let's get a contract extension in place right now. And if you go to them early, you get a much more discounted rate. The problem with that is that would be breaking all precedent when it comes to Brian Gutekunst. I don't see it happening. But rather than try to pay one of those guys 18 or 20 or 22 million per, what if you could go to them early and get them both for 10 million per? A little bit more guaranteed money, keep the cap number down, that type of thing. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but that's kind of how I would see that wide receiver room. I wouldn't be willing to pay either of those guys right now 20 million plus, though. I just can't. I would rather reload in the draft, maybe try to get a deal in free agency, make Jayden Reed your guy, your slot, your F receiver. You would still have rights to Bo Melton, I'm pretty sure. Same thing with Malik Heath, those type of guys, right? Dontavion Wicks will be on the roster. Hopefully you figure the hands thing out, man. Listen, he's one of the best route runners in the league, and that's not my personal opinion. That's by separation yards. So if he could figure the hands thing out, it could be just a sophomore slump like listeners were saying the other day. I hope that's the case. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the wide receiver room shakes out moving forward. And, again, these are the things we're going to talk about in the bye week. We're looking at where we're ranking right now. We're also looking ahead. Hey, what the plan might be roster-wise on down the road, those type of things. We're going to break into the plays, the best plays of the first half of the 2024 season. We'll do chalk talks on those. And then, of course, as we get into early next week, we're going to be stepping right into Bears week and breaking down that matchup against the Chicago Bears. So that's it. That's all we got today. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Again, we did an early show because got plans tonight. We'll be back tomorrow, 7 p.m. Central with the guys. And if they want to do a show tonight, I'll set it up for them. I'll reach out to them and see if they want to do another show here in a little bit. Put some pressure on them on Twitter. Say, hey, guys, get out there and do a show tonight. But if not, we'll see y'all tomorrow. So for those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. We appreciate you. We'll see y'all tomorrow night. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world and go Pack Go.